let me ask you something. What if your most fundamental beliefs, everything from the laws of science to your deepest faith, aren't actually absolute truths? What if they're just tools, really powerful, sophisticated tools that we humans built for ourselves? That's the huge idea we're diving into today.
Yeah, I know. It sounds like the setup to a pretty weird joke, right? But seriously, this question gets right to the heart of what we're talking about. It makes us look past all the obvious differences and search for a connection that's way, way deeper.
And here it is. Here's the answer. Both of them, the physics formula and the prayer, are what you'd call human constructs. They're these incredible systems that our minds have built just to help us navigate a world that can feel, pretty chaotic and overwhelming. So let's really dig into this idea. We're going to start by looking at the world through this totally new lens. The argument from our source material is that all of our belief systems, it doesn't matter if they're scientific or spiritual, are basically just these really advanced tools. They're the frameworks we build to give our reality some kind of shape and meaning. Okay, so to really wrap our heads around this, it helps to organize these belief systems a little bit. Let's think of them as our mental toolkits. In this next part, we're going to break down the different kinds of tools we humans have come up with to make our way through the world. Now, what's so fascinating here is how these are grouped together. It puts science and religion right next to each other. And look, the source isn't saying they're the exact same thing, not at all. It's saying that they perform a really similar function. They're both human-made frameworks we use to bring a little order to reality. And this right here is where the idea gets, kind of radical. It suggests that even what we call objective fact is still something we see through a human-made lens, just like faith. It really makes you stop and think, doesn't it? So that naturally leads to the big question, right? Why? Why do we even bother building these massive, complex systems in the first place? Well, according to the source material, they're not just random. They come from some very specific and very human needs. And it really boils down to these three main drivers. First, we just have this deep, deep need to make sense of a really complex world, to find patterns and meaning. Second, we build systems to get some control over our environment. This is what lets us build all kinds of new technology. And third, we use them to organize ourselves into societies, creating everything from our laws to our economies. But here's the thing we absolutely have to remember. These tools are for us. They're for our benefit. So what happens when we try to step back and get a view from the outside? What does reality even look like without our human-centric lens on it? This line from the source is just so powerful and so humbling. The universe was doing its thing long before we came up with formulas to describe it. I mean, gravity didn't exactly wait around for Newton's equations to start working. These systems of ours, they're the map, not the territory itself. And this really puts it into perspective, doesn't it? On one side, you've got us with our deep need for order, for meaning, for these nice, neat formulas. And on the other side, you just have the universe, which functions perfectly fine without any of our labels or our understanding. It just is. So here's the really crucial takeaway from all this. Because these are all human-built systems, they have limits. It's why, for example, trying to use the tools of science to prove the existence of a god, it might be a pointless exercise. It's like trying to use a hammer to measure the temperature. You're just using the wrong tool for the job. Okay, so this isn't just some abstract philosophical game we're playing. Understanding these limits has huge real-world implications for how we treat each other. And that brings us to our final and maybe most important section, a lesson in mutual respect. When you start seeing your own beliefs this way, as the specific tools you've chosen to build your life and understand the world, it suddenly becomes a lot harder to claim that your toolkit is the only one that's valid, right? It just fosters a bit of humility. The source material really doesn't pull any punches here. This is about as pragmatic as it gets. Realizing that our beliefs are constructs isn't supposed to make them feel less important. It's supposed to stop us from using them as an excuse for conflict. And that's really the bottom line. It doesn't matter if your tool is a scientific theory, a religious text, or a philosophy. Its purpose is to build things, not to tear them down. The second we start insisting that our tool is the only tool, we risk turning it into a weapon against anyone who uses a different one. So I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. Realizing your worldview is a tool doesn't make it weaker. It actually empowers you. It puts all the responsibility right in your hands. So the question isn't what's true anymore. The question is,
What can you build with it?